Hello, I'm Brent Ferris from the Bearded Studios, and what I want to show in this one are page controllers. So controllers is much like what you would find in MVC, which is Model View Controller, and this is a standard in web development. So what we have here inside of the Forge Networking web server, inside of the scripts controllers, we can see that we actually have controllers here. And these controllers correspond to the page that they work with. So notice that the page for the command console is CMD. So if you look over here, we have a CMD controller. And of course, we have an index. So index page, oh, well, it's not running. So let's run our server just so it loads the page. Let's host our server. So there we are. And we have our index page all loaded up here. So I want to show you what the index page controller looks like. And the index page controller is in C#. So in this controller, we have a few things. We have our constructor to set up our data, which also sets up our bandwidth logic. And then we have two functions here. And the two functions actually play a specific role. And these are clone functions right now. I just have them laid up so you can show the difference between the two. So this first function, render, will always be called, and render actually takes the HTML and renders the page. Any other function that is public and returns a string, like players, would be an action. And an action is an easy way to go to a controller and have a different behavior on it. So let's say, for example, that we have this start time variable here, and what we're going to do, or let's go with this runtime. So let's take this runtime variable here. I'm going to talk about these variables in another video, but I just want to show that what actions are inside of controllers. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that at the top of render, and I'm also going to put it at the top of player. So when we call render, we'll show the simulated server time. And when we call player, I'm going to write out, haha, I'm a player. And both of these functions are not called. Only one function is going to be called from this controller, other than the constructor and the functions you explicitly call. So if we call render, players isn't going to be called, and if we call players, render is not going to be called. So let's check out what we've done here. So I'm going to go back to Unity and stop playing so that it can compile our new controller. Now when I start playing, and let's start up our server, you'll notice that the index is the same. However, if I put a slash at the end and type players, which is the exact name of that function that we added, you'll notice that it does different behavior on the same page. Now it says runtime, haha, I'm a player, rather than saying what the current simulated time is. So these are actions. So basically it's going to the index page and calling this function. And that is an action inside of our controller. And you can have as many actions as you want. They're just different functions, and you can call them by having a different endpoint at the end of your URL structure. So that's basically it for how these controllers work. I can give you an overview of some of these other controllers. So the page not found controller is simply going to render the 404. The CMD controller is simply going to show the command. And the reason it doesn't have a bunch of functions for deleting objects and kicking players is because the CMD controller is actually not responsible for those commands. If you remember or have seen from the HTML page in the command window, it's actually doing a REST request, or it's doing a web request to the console controller. So it's going to the current origin, which is my local host with the IP, and it's calling the console controller. So that's actually calling, instead of controllers, we have a console here. So it's actually calling this one, which has all the logic for kicking players and all the other stuff. And we'll go over this one in another video as well. So that's basically it for controllers and actions. Those are the two things that you really need to know about them. If you have any questions, please let us know. And until the next video, we'll see you later.